This is the Garvee 28-inch heavy-duty log lifting tongs. Log lifter, log grapple, you get the point. Personally, I like the word grapple, but we'll mix it up. The kind folks at Garvee sent me this log grapple in exchange for making this review video, which I'll be testing this grapple on some logs a little later on using my Chinese mini excavator. Be sure to check out the description of this video for the product link for the Garvee Log Lifting Tongs, as well as a discount code which helps you by getting the Garvee products cheaper, and it helps me with commissions that I earn from any sale.
They're freaking heavy.
They sell a lot more than just log lifting tongs and at very affordable prices. You really ought to check them out. But first, let's get it out of the box and check out the Garvee 28-inch log lifting tongs' finer details. Out of the box, the Garvee 28-inch log lifting tongs felt very solid. They're bright red in color and all edges seem to be smooth and free of burrs.
Okay, I had to see if that was stainless or not, but it's not. It's just highly polished carbon steel, evidently.
Sometimes the weight of a set of log grapples is an indicator of quality. Mostly Mike will weigh the log grapple.
So the Garvee log skidding tongs weigh just under 40 pounds, about 39 pounds. So the bolts holding this thing together are pretty stout. They're about 15.5 millimeters in diameter, which would equate to about 5/8 in English. So the thickness of the steel that this is crafted of is 10 millimeter, which converted to English, about 395, which is just a little over 3/8, which would be 3.75 or 0.375. So what's the max that this thing is going to pick up? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. If you spread it all the way, the grapple, the opening between the points is 29.5 inches or 75 centimeters. Now, unless you're picking up something that's totally flat and only that thick, like a slab, it'll pick it up. Now, let's think about this. The center, you got about 10 inches of throat, I'll call it here. 10 inches, 25.5 centimeters, as we all know. But when you get into a more realistic lift, like they're talking for a log, I'm gonna say that to get it around the log, this is gonna be a little bit more realistic. So what you could expect, we got about 14.25 inches or 36.5 centimeters. And I think that would probably be a more realistic lift for this device.
I'm sure that there's a question in everyone's mind saying, well, mostly Mike, how does it hook up to your Chinese mini excavator? Well, I'm glad you asked.
So this is my AGT QK16R mini excavator. I've thought about how am I going to hook something like that up to my mini excavator. And if you look, so this is the bucket on the machine on my mini excavator. And as you can see, there's no place to mount or tie any chains or cables, anything to. I thought about welding on to the bucket itself, but I think it's only maybe 4 millimeters thick on the middle here. And I thought, well, instead of that, let's see if they make anything.
And it turns out they do. I bought this nifty attachment that is basically a receiver hitch for the boom of the excavator. This receiver hitch looks like it'll have many other uses than we're going to do here, but I'll get into that in another video. And this is a shackle insert for the receiver. So we'll be able to connect chains and slings to the end of the boom. But most importantly, in the interest of this video, we can attach the Garvee 28-inch log lifting tongs to the boom.
Alright, so what's right or wrong about this picture? Well, I'll tell you what I think might be wrong. Depends what you want to do with your log grapple. You only get a little bit of side-to-side movement, which is great if you're picking up a log straight on and you want to lift it and stack it. That's great. What if you want to turn these sideways to skid a log? I don't know where I got this from, but I had it around. And I checked on Amazon, and you can buy these on there. I'll be sure to include the link for that in the description. But this is like an attachment point that allows you to swivel your log grapple. It's gonna install pretty easily. Keep the weight off of it. Because this thing, what I say, it weighed 39.5 pounds. Now this is gonna take away about 4 inches from your lifting height, but who cares? And now we have essentially a crane. And it spins perfectly now.
I tried to pick up a rather large rock in my yard, and really wasn't sure if my Chinese mini excavator would be able to lift this large of a rock, estimating its weight to be, well, a lot. The Garvee Log Lifting Tongs just couldn't grip the sides of the rock. To grab something like this that the points can't sink into, the tongs would have had to be long enough to hook the bottom edge of the rock. There were some old scrap pieces of utility pole that I would estimate to be between 100 and 200 pounds, considering that they are severely waterlogged. The Garvee Log Lifting Tongs performed great on them individually, but when I tried multiples, they sort of just rolled through the tongs. And that's pretty much it for testing in my yard. I'm going to load this Chinese mini excavator onto my trailer along with my entire gamut of attachments that I purchased for my Chinese mini excavator thus far, and I'll be taking this stuff to my mom's place where there's a much larger log. This log seems to be an excellent testing log for skidding as well as lifting. I unloaded my mini excavator onto my mom's property and drove it to the creek bed where this hard maple tree stands. This tree had uprooted last year and I stood it back up in another video, but water is undermining its roots, so I'm gonna just cut it down, which gives us this testing log.
I don't know, this might be a little much to lift out of here for that machine. We're about 22 inches roughly, and it shrinks down up here to probably about 16. We are looking at almost 9 feet if you want to count the angled cut. So that's what we're going to be lifting. That's what we're going to try to lift. I don't know. The terrain is horrible here. We have a dip. I don't know if I'm going to even have a place where I can get my machine setting level enough to get this out of here, because we're looking at probably a 3-foot drop into the creek bed here. I definitely got to get this out of here one way or another. I don't want to dam the creek up, but we'll see what we can do.
And this is where the fun begins. First off, let me say that this log is extremely heavy, way heavier than I had anticipated. The terrain is what I will nicely refer to as less than ideal. And when I say less than ideal, I mean it's a complete nightmare for someone who actually knows what they're doing, never mind me. There's ruts, briars, roots, and a creek bank that this super heavy log will need to be skidded up. I had to plow a makeshift road to get my machine where it needed to be. I struggled and then struggled more, and finally concluded that this Circus, for lack of a better word, is absolutely at no fault of the Garvee 28-inch log lifting tongs. With my mini excavator, I had to have the boom completely extended to get the height needed in order to lift the log. As we know, these machines lose strength as well as stability the further from the machine that a lift is made. The points of the log lifting tongs will bite into the log enough to lift it regardless of position. I tried vertical, horizontal, and often diagonally. The harder you pull with the machine, the harder they grab. Putting the dozer blade down will significantly increase stability, but then you can't move the log. If you swing the boom, the mini excavator will tip. Raising the dozer blade will also tip the machine with the log lifted. I then decided to cut the log in half and then tried different scenarios. Sometimes even turning the hitch attachment backwards, as well as moving the bucket controls to attempt to raise the lifting height limitations. It just seemed that in positions where the mini excavator is the most powerful, there just isn't enough height to lift the log.
With the excavator, it just it doesn't lift high enough to get it close to the machine to handle the weight that that grapple is capable of. But watch when I leave the plow, or when I let up on the plow. It's like right at the balancing point of the machine. Not good.
So you might be asking, what are my final thoughts on the Garvee 28-inch log lifting tongs? I believe that even though my mini excavator struggled to get a good lift on our test log, the Garvee log lifting tongs were more than able to lift or skid the log without letting go or even slipping. These tongs are very well built and stood up to all of the abusive antics in this video. If I was cutting huge logs like this into firewood, I believe that this would come in really handy to load billets onto the trailer or onto the splitter. There's no doubt that I'll be putting these log lifting tongs to use in future videos. Be sure to check out my other videos and my growing Chinese mini excavator playlist, just full of videos about mini excavators and mini excavator accessories. I hope that you enjoyed this video and possibly got some laughs out of my struggles getting that log out of the creek. Please like, share, and consider subscribing if you did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.